Let's see next slide. I've looked at where is the father was born and where is the mother was born. Okay, let's see. So I'm looking at, I'm going to show you. I'm looking at the father. The father is called Pierre de Coligny de Flores. Okay, but he's not the father of George Bayesu. What is interesting is the name Bayesu and to see where he's come from. Okay, even if it's fake, they've created a fake genealogy, but we can still find the truth. As when we see where he's come from, let's see. He was born. As can you see where was he born? Senegal.
Wow. 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 Wow.
Okay, so the father of Joseph Bayesu, who is not George Bayesu, but they have the same name. His father was born in Senegal, right? And let's see at the mother then. If you look at the mother, let's see where she was born. Binata Diop, Senegal. Why is it important? Is it important as the people who were reigning over England, okay? The Hanover family, who is the George family, okay, are the same people who went to Senegal after they were overthrown. So they are the same people, especially the ethnicity is Wolof. The ethnicity is the Wolof. And when we were looking at the mother of George Washington, who the name Maribal, we see that we can find this name in Senegal. Okay, so those were the Ottomans we be talking about. You see, okay, so this is another coincidence. Okay, let's get further. We're gonna get further. Okay, so now the number of the children. Okay, let's look at the number of siblings George Washington had. Okay, we're gonna be looking at the number of siblings George Washington had. So George Washington was born on February, okay, blah blah blah, Pope's Creek, County, Virginia. He was the first of 6 children of Augustine and Maribal Washington. His father was a justice of the peace and a prominent public figure who had 4 additional children from his first marriage to John Butler. So people in the comment section, can you tell me how many children there were? If his father had 6 children from a first marriage and and 4 children from a second marriage, how many children do his father have? Did his father have?
George Washington father in total, how many children did he have? According to what we just read about him, George Washington was the first of 6 children that the father had with Mary Ball, and the father had an additional 4 children with Jane Butler from a previous marriage. So in total, how many children did the father have altogether? So let's see. All right, we have Jeremiah the Bless who says, yeah, that's 10. Marduk says 10. Amos says 10. Sunshine says 10. June Dore says 10. Marie Sauveur says 10. Night Nurse 10. Pré tout moun dit 9. Pré tout moun change ça, li dit 10. Barbara says 10. Joe Rubens 10. Everybody is pretty much in agreement that the father had 10 children. Papa George Washington te gen 10 ti moun an tou, 6 non deuxième mariage, 4 non premier mariage.
So his father had 10 children in total, right? So George Washington fathers had 10 children. Okay, so let's be clear on that. Let's see about George 2 children. We're gonna be counting. Okay, let me show the screen so you can see. So George the second, okay, and his wife was Caroline of Enbach. Let's see the number of his children. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see the name of
Oh,
it.
wow.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 children. So the father of George III had 10 children, and the father of George Washington had 10 children.
Interesting. Over here, this is where we look at all of the coincidences between the two figures, or the three figures in this case, and then we're going to start to turn them into evidence. Wow. So George III, which we're saying is also the same figure, right? The King of England is the same figure that they sold us to be George Washington. And we just did the the vibration calculation on the three, because we say eventually all of them come down to George Biasu. That's who it really is, because they copied the story of George Biasu, falsified it, changed the color of the person, gave you a pale looking person on both sides, right? The King of England, including George Washington. And today we're showing you it was a falsification and the story that they taught us, and we're using the tools to prove how they managed to hide the story from all of us, and we're showing you where it comes from. So this is what's happening for those who are, who have recently joined, in case you didn't get the mission of today's presentation, which we're doing in English on Learive. Et so c'est ça qu'a fait là, n'a montré toute coïncidence qui va venir donner évidence sur travail qui a fait dans Learive là. Et Chouffouli a frappé au fort là. Oui, Chouf, continue frère.
Let's get further. Okay, so now we're gonna be interested in the color of the hair of George Washington. Okay, boom. So it's written in French, but the text is in English. Okay, so we're gonna be looking at the color of the hair of George Washington. Okay, let's see. So it's come from this book. Let me show you. The Man Who Would Not Be Washington. Okay, so, and indeed looked like the man for the job, like George Washington. He had reddish brown hair, large eyes, socket, and a graceful bearing. Reddish brown hair, large eyes, sockets. Okay, so let's get to the other. So if you look at George Biasu complexion, which you know now, George III is George III complexion was reddy complexion, had a reddy complexion. Reddy complexion is that we know that George Biasu is George III, so when they say reddy complexion means is that kind of complexion. Okay, and we've seen that he had reddish brown hair. When we talk about George Washington, he had reddish brown hair, and George the III had a reddy complexion. Okay, and large eyes, protruding eyes, and George Washington had large eye sockets. You see? Okay, let's get further. Okay, now, so if people know, they used to refer to George Washington as a farmer. Okay, as you can see the title here, George Washington as farmer. If you know the history that is given to you at school, they used to refer as George Washington as a farmer, right? So we're gonna be reading this text to confirm. George Washington took an early interest in husbandry and agricultural improvement as early as the 60s. He was already in the practice of keeping records of his planting activities. Okay, Washington precise record keeping was one of his first steps on the path to agricultural improvement and innovation. Over time, Washington agricultural record keeping grew increasingly. Okay, so let's see this paragraph below. Washington post-revolutionary war rehabilitation of Mount Vernon progressed from repairing the physical improvement of his plantation to a reconsideration of his entire mode of farming. You see, so indeed, George Washington was a farmer. Okay, George Washington was a farmer. Okay, and now let's look at George III, who is referred as a farmer. You see, Farmer George. Do you see? Farmer George. Agriculture is referred as a farmer. You see? So let's have a quick look at this text. During his reign, King George III acquired the nickname of Farmer George, in part due to his agricultural interests and in part as a playful pun, a nod toward nominative determinism, given that the name George derived from the Greek words Georgios, meaning farmer, earth worker. However, the extent to which the popular name arose from his reputation as an agriculturalist has been debated. The anecdote and caricatures from the 80s and 90s tended to depict a friendly, homespun country gentleman rather than a progressive, experimenting improver. The farmer characterization captures both his reportedly simple domestic life and his traditional paternalist role. But you can see the picture that they made of him here. Here's the picture that they made of, the fake picture that they made of George III as a farmer. You can see it here. So they refer as George Washington as a farmer, and George III was referred to as a farmer. Okay.
What are the chances, right? We're going over some coincidences that we're going to leverage as evidence for the lies that were covered. Are you starting to see the picture? Everybody who's been following. Est-ce que nous voyons photo qu'a propagé là par rapport de coïncidence qu'a tourné évidence dans figure tout le monde là? Do you see the relationship that we're talking about here? Do you see the dimension? And we're just getting started.
Okay, let's get further. Oh, what happened?
Twisted a little bit clockwise to make it to make it balanced. Yeah, that's good. And then maybe a little bit of a zoom out so it can fill the screen. A little counterclockwise. Yep, that's good. That's perfect, actually. A little bit out so we can see famous quote from George Washington. All right, that's good here. You're good. We can see it.
Okay, so let's see. So it's a famous quote from George Washington. What does he say? He said, "I had rather be on my farm than be emperor of the world." So why, question to you, to all the people who are in the commentary section, why does he say emperor of the world? Please, moun ki nan commentaire yo, pour qui ça le dit, yon empereur de monde là, s'il vous plaît. I had rather be on my farm than be emperor of the world. Qui ça veut cacher la donne?
He would rather be on his farm than to be an emperor of the world. I mean, again, we're continuing with the coincidence, and we're going to turn that into the evidence that has been hidden. And the Kreyol, what he is saying in Kreyol, pour qui ça li préféré, c'est un planteur qui sous ferme au lieu que c'est un empereur qui a gouverné le monde que li dit. C'est ça que li dit là. Pour qui ça li t'a dit un bagay comme ça? Et qui est-ce qui a dit ça? C'est George Washington. George Washington has made such a statement. Interesting, but true.